Be gentle with yourself. Being gentle means many things. It means not expecting yourself to be perfect by tomorrow morning. If you're a late bloomer, as many of us are, be patient and allow yourself enough time to grow. It means learning to laugh at the stupid things you do. I have a friend, Chuck, who's extraordinary when it comes to laughing at himself and never taking life too seriously. I've always been amazed at how his upbeat attitude attracts people to him, almost magnetically. Being gentle also means forgiving yourself when you mess up. And who hasn't done that? We should learn from our mistakes, but we shouldn't beat ourselves up over them. The past is just that, past. Consider what went wrong and why. Learn and make amends if you need to. Then drop it and move on. Throw the voodoo doll out with the trash. One of the keys to happiness, says Rita Mae Brown, is a bad memory. A ship at sea for many years picks up thousands of barnacles that attach themselves to the bottom of the ship and eventually weigh it down, becoming a threat to its safety. The easiest way to get rid of them is for the ship to harbor in a freshwater port, free of salt water. Here the barnacles loosen on their own and fall off. The ship is then able to return to sea, relieved of its burden. Are you carrying around barnacles in the form of mistakes, regrets, and pain from the past? Perhaps you need to allow yourself to soak in fresh water for a while. Hit the refresh button. Letting go of a burden and giving yourself a second chance may just be the deposit you need right now. Always be a first-rate version of yourself instead of a second-rate version of somebody else. Judy Garland. As Bruno Mars sings, life's too short to have regrets. Only have one life to live, so you better make the best of it. Be honest. I Googled the word honest the other day, and these are a few of the related words I found. Upstanding, incorruptible, moral, principled, truth-loving, steadfast, true, real, right, good, straight-shooting, and genuine. Not a bad set of words to be associated with, don't you think? Honesty comes in many forms. First, there's self-honesty. When people look at you, do they see the genuine article, or do you appear through smoke and mirrors? I find that if I'm ever fake and try to be something I'm not, I feel unsure of myself and make a PBA withdrawal. I love how singer Judy Garland put it. Always be a first-rate version of yourself instead of a second-rate version of somebody else. Then there's honesty in our actions. If you've been dishonest in the past, and I think we all have, try being honest and notice how whole it makes you feel. It's a relief not to hide who you are and to have to cover up your actions. This goes for your internet persona too. Just because people can't see you directly doesn't mean you can lie. After all, you'll know that you're not telling the truth. Remember, you can't do wrong and feel right. This story by Jeff is a good example of that. In my sophomore year, there were 3 kids in my geometry class who didn't do well in math. I was really good at it. I'd charge them $3 for each test that I helped them pass. The tests were multiple choice, so I'd write on a little tiny piece of paper all the right answers and hand them off. At first, I felt like I was making money. Kind of a nice job. I wasn't thinking about how it could hurt all of us. After a while, I realized I shouldn't do that anymore because they weren't learning anything, and it would only get harder down the road. Cheating certainly wasn't helping me. It takes courage to be honest when people around you seem to be getting away with cheating on tests, lying to their parents, and stealing from work. But remember, every act of honesty is a deposit in your PBA and will build strength. As the saying goes, my strength is as the strength of 10 because my heart is pure. Honesty is always the best policy, even when it may not be popular. Renew yourself. You got to take time for yourself to renew and relax. If you don't, you'll get burned out and lose your zest for life. It seems like half the planet has seen the movie Avatar, the highest grossing film of all time. Why was it so successful? Because groundbreaking special effects and great filmmaking. I believe the story hits home because we all need to practice what it's preaching. The story takes place in the year 2154 on Pandora, a forested moon in the Alpha Centauri star system, and revolves around the character of Jake Sully, a former Marine, now paralyzed, confined to a wheelchair, trapped and unfulfilled. Being able to mentally live through his avatar, a 10-foot-tall replica of the planet's blue natives, he at first feels alive because he can run and enjoy a working body, even if only in his mind. But it quickly becomes much more than that. Meeting the natives, Jake falls in love with Natiri, a female Navy native. The more time he spends with Natiri and her people, the more he comes to see the beauty and peace and power of their world. A world Jake's loud, natural resource-thirsty humans have come to pillage and plunder. The message for us here is about rejuvenation, about unplugging, about taking time to listen to the natural world around us. It's about putting yourself in a self-imposed timeout once in a while. Now, you don't have to become a 10-foot tall, semi-human blue dude in order to find peace, but like Jake Sully, finding your own place to escape to, your own sanctuary of some kind, is essential. Go sit somewhere and ponder the clouds. Find a tree stump and listen to the wind, or birds, or maybe even the beating of your own heart. If you don't have access to a big, cool, glowing tree of souls like Jake, maybe you can find a rooftop, a park bench, some piece of grass somewhere, just a place to be alone. Now, all this might sound a bit hokey, but trust me, humans today live in constant storm of stuff, and we all need to take a deep breath and unplug occasionally just to renew our spirits. Theodore from Canada had his hideout. Whenever I'd get too stressed out, or when I wasn't getting along with my parents, I'd just go to the basement. There I had a hockey stick, a ball, and a bare concrete wall on which I could take out my frustrations. I'd just shoot the ball for half an hour and go back upstairs refreshed. It did wonders for my hockey game, but it was even better for my family relationships. Arian told me about his refuge. Whenever he got too stressed out, he would slip into his high school's large auditorium through a back door. All alone in the quiet, dark, and spacious auditorium, he could get away from all the hustle and bustle, have a good cry, or just relax. Allison found a garden all her own. My dad died in an industrial accident at work when I was little. I really don't know the details because I've always been afraid to ask my mother very many questions about it. Maybe it's because I've created this perfect picture of him in my mind that I don't want to change. To me, he's this perfect human being who would protect me if he were here. He's with me all the time in my thoughts, and I imagine how he would act and help me if he was here. When I really need him, I go to the top of the slide at the local grade school playground. I have this silly feeling that if I can go to the highest place, I will be able to feel him. So I climb up to the top of the slide and just lie there. I talk to him in my thoughts, and I can feel him talking to my mind. I want him to touch me, but of course know that he cannot. I go there every time something really is bothering me, and I just share my burdens with him. Besides finding a place of refuge, there are so many other ways to renew yourself and build your PBA. Exercise can do it, like going for a walk, running, dancing, or kickboxing. Some teens have suggested watching old movies, talking to friends who crack you up, or recording music and making videos on your computer. Others have found that writing in their journals helps them cope. Habit 7, Sharpen the Saw, is all about taking time to renew your body, heart, mind, and soul. We'll talk more about it when we get there, so hold your horses. Magnify your talents. Finding and then developing a talent, hobby, or passion can be one of the single greatest deposits you can make into your PBA. Why is it that when we think of talents, we think in terms of the traditional, high-profile talents, such as the athlete, dancer, or award-winning scholar? The truth is, talents come in a variety of packages. Don't think small. You may have a knack for reading, writing, or speaking. You may have a gift for rhythm, being hilarious, remembering details, or being accepting of others. You may have organizational, musical, or leadership skills. It doesn't matter where your talent may lie, whether it's chess, drama, or skateboarding. When you do something you like doing and have a talent for, it's exhilarating. It's a form of self-expression, and as this girl attests, it builds self-esteem. You might die laughing when I tell you that I have a real talent and love for weeds. And I'm not talking about the kind you smoke, but weeds and flowers that grow everywhere. I realized that I always noticed them, while others just wanted them cut down. So I started picking them and pressing them, and eventually making beautiful pictures and postcards and art objects with them. I've been able to cheer many a sad soul with one of these personalized cards. I'm often asked to do arrangements of flowers for others and to share my knowledge of preserving pressed plants. It's given me so much joy and confidence, just knowing I have the special gift and appreciation for something most people ignore. But it even goes beyond that. It's taught me that if there's so much to just simple weeds, how much more is there to almost everything else in life? It's made me look deeper. It's made me an explorer. My brother-in-law Bryce told me about how developing a talent helped build his self-confidence and find a career in which he could make a difference. His story is set in the Teton Mountain Range that stretches high above the plains of Idaho and Wyoming. The Grand Teton, the tallest of the Teton Peaks, juts 13,776 feet above sea level. As a young boy, Bryce had the picture-perfect baseball swing, until his tragic accident. While playing with a BB gun one day, Bryce accidentally shot himself in the eye. Fearing that surgery might permanently impair his vision, the doctors left the BB in his eye. Months later, when Bryce returned to baseball, he began striking out each time at bat. He had lost his depth perception and much of his vision in one eye and could no longer judge the ball. Said Bryce, "I was an all-star player the year before, and now I couldn't hit the ball. I was convinced that I would never be able to do anything again. It was a big blow to my confidence." Bryce's two older brothers were good at so many things, and he wondered what he could do now, given his new handicap. Since he lived near the Tetons and he decided to give climbing a try, so he dropped by the local army store and bought nylon rope, carabiners, chalks, pitons, and other climbing necessities. He checked out climbing books and studied how to tie knots, hook up a harness, and rappel. His first real climbing experience was rappelling off his friend's chimney. Soon he began climbing some of the smaller peaks surrounding the Grand Teton. Bryce soon realized that he had a knack for it. Unlike many of his climbing partners, his body was strong and lightweight and seemed to be perfectly built for rock climbing. After training for several months, Bryce finally climbed the Grand Teton all by himself. It took him 2 days. Reaching this goal gave him a massive confidence boost. He'd drive to the Tetons, run up to the base of the climb, do the climb, and run back down. Bryce got faster and stronger every time. Bryce's friend Kim noticed how seriously he took climbing and told him, "Hey, you ought to go after the record on the Grand Teton." Kim told Bryce all about it. A climbing ranger named Jock Glidden had set a record on the Grand by running to the top and back in 4 hours and 11 minutes. "That's absolutely impossible," thought Bryce. "I'd like to meet this guy someday." But as Bryce continued to do these types of runs, his times became faster, and Kim kept saying, "You have to go after the record. I know you can do it." On one occasion, Bryce finally met Jock, the superhuman with the insurmountable record. Bryce and Kim were sitting in Jock's tent when Kim, a well-known climber himself, said to Jock, "This guy here is thinking about going after your record." Jock gazed at Bryce's 125-pound frame and laughed aloud, as if to say, "Get a clue, you little runt." Bryce felt devastated, but quickly gathered himself, and Kim kept affirming him, "You can do it. I know you can." Early one morning, carrying a small orange backpack and a light jacket, Bryce ran to the top of the Grand and back in 3 hours, 47 minutes, and 4 seconds. He stopped only twice, once to take rocks out of his shoes and once to sign the register at the summit to prove he had been there. He felt utterly amazing. He'd not only broken the record, he'd shattered it. A few years later, Bryce received a surprise call from Kim. "Bryce, have you heard? Your record has just been broken." Of course, he added, "You need to get it back. I know you can do it." A man named Creighton King, who had recently won the heralded Pikes Peak Marathon in Colorado, dashed to the top and back in 3 hours, 30 minutes, and 9 seconds. 2 years after his last assault on the mountain and 10 days after his record had been broken, Bryce stood in the Lupine Meadows parking lot at the base of the Grand Teton in brand new running shoes, ready and eager to break King's record. With him were friends, family, Kim, and a crew from the local television station to film his run. As before, he knew the hardest part of the climb would be the mental aspect. He obviously did not want to become one of the 2 or 3 who die each year while attempting to scale the Grand. Sports writer Russell Weeks described running the Grand as follows. From the parking lot, you face a run of about 9 or 10 miles up switchback trails, through a canyon, up 2 glacial moraines, 2 saddles, a gap between 2 peaks, and a 700-foot climb up the west wall of the Grand to the top. The rise and fall in altitude from Lupine Meadows to the top and back is about 15,000 feet. Lee Ortenberger's Climber's Guide to the Teton Range lists the last 700 feet alone as a 3-hour climb.